Well, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How are you and the family doing?
You know, my family is unharmed. My family is hanging in there. You know, I appreciate that, law enforcement acted really swiftly to deal with this bomb threat on our home. You know, we have to talk our kids through it though. Our kids are in middle school and, they understand on some level, you know, the world that we live in, but it's our job as parents to make sure that we can help them understand it in the healthiest possible way, even when it's hard. And so my wife and I are talking through that. I think, but look, we're going to get through there. We're going to push through it. Everybody's in this space where we got to push through a moment like this.
I think any parent can understand how difficult that would be when you have children who are aware of the world that we live in. Thanks for sharing that. First of all, can you tell us what you were told and when this threat came in, and how law enforcement explained to you that it was a credible threat?
Yeah, so we were informed in the afternoon, afternoon, and they let us know it was credible immediately. And so my wife was at work, I was at work, my kids were at school, so none of us were home in our place, but we live in a building. And so our neighbors were in the building. So they did have to be informed, so they could be cleared so that the Detroit Police Department and Michigan State Police could sweep the building. So we knew it was credible from the start. And again, I just really appreciate law enforcement, again, acting quickly, acting decisively, and making sure that everything was going to be cleared and the threat could be averted.
Did the building have to be evacuated for a time?
They did clear out the folks who were in the building, and there was, I live in a neighborhood. I don't live in like an isolated, gated community. Like there's a school across the street, there's a business across the street, there's a church a block away. And so, as concerned I am for my family, and I'm also, concerned about just my neighbors and the other people who share the Corktown neighborhood, making sure they're okay too.
Can you talk more about the police response and how they deemed this credible, and then how they cleared the situation for you and your family to return back to your building?
They swept it. I mean, they went in, they made sure that they looked at all the entries and all the spaces in the building and make sure that it was safe and that it was cleared. And so again, I respect and admire how they did it with really technical excellence. I thank the Detroit Police Department and Chief Bedison. I thank the Michigan State Police and Colonel Grady, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and Sheriff Washington. Like their teams really did step up.
Okay, so this was a multi-unit response.
Yeah.
Okay. Yesterday, when you released your press release after this was deemed a credible threat, you framed it as a pattern of escalating political violence. And in the light of the assassination of Charlie Kirk just that day or the day before, do you believe this threat against you was politically motivated?
I think that, one, political violence is not acceptable and is intolerable. We should not accept it in any of its forms. And, the act of threatening, my family as a public official is a political act, and it's problematic. And we shouldn't tolerate it, we shouldn't normalize it, and we shouldn't excuse it. And I think everybody has a role to play to make sure that we don't continue to fester that kind of environment or that kind of political discourse. I think we have a responsibility in that.
What do you think politicians can do to be part of the solution of what you're talking about?
Well, I think that, again, as I say, we all have a role to play. Everybody with a voice and with a platform. That is not limited to people who are elected or appointed officials. Everybody can. And I got to say, in this moment, in this environment where people are consuming all this information in its super raw and unfiltered way, because that's how social media works, it does make emotionally processing stuff in real time challenging and hard. So we should acknowledge that. And I think we can be honest about that as public officials. And then ultimately, we have a role to play to make sure we are able to share what we feel and what we think and do so honestly and in a real way. And also then just like press and push for all of us to push through this and push through the difficult conversations that it's going to take for us to be able to evolve this political system beyond violence and toward actually be a solution oriented.
So again, do you think this threat against you was politically motivated?
Again, I'm a public official. It's clear this was something that by name came to my home. And so I think that speaks for itself. But I think, again, we all have an opportunity here to be mindful of our actions.
What immediate steps have you taken, or do you now have to take in light of this threat? What's going to change in the Gilchrist household because of this?
Well, the priority are my kids. Again, I got twin middle schoolers, I got an elementary school age daughter, and we just have to make sure that we are mindful and taking care of how they feel and answering their questions and doing so in a way that, as parents, we have to have honest, age appropriate conversations. That is the priority for me and Ellen. So, it certainly has changed and evolved the conversation that we must have with them.
As a public official, as somebody who's running for governor of Michigan, do you worry about the safety of yourself and your family?
Well, I hate that part of public life is unfortunately the threat of violence, and that again, this environment of political violence, it seems to only go in one direction and only sweep up more people. I mean, we had, one of our state senators, Jeremy Moss, had a threat on his home. We've had political violence in Michigan in the past, not to mention the incidents that have happened in other parts of the country, including my fellow lieutenant governors. That is something that's really sick. And that is the worst part of our politics. But I also think that the reason why it's important to have the right kind of leadership, the right kind of governor in Michigan who is willing and able and has gone to meet people where they are everywhere in our state. I've been to every single county in Michigan, all 83 of them, at least 3 times, meeting people where they are, building relationships, listening to them, understanding what's important to them. It is hard to hate someone who's listened to you, like genuinely. And so I think, that is the opportunity that the next governor of Michigan has. And I'm running for governor to deliver that, to say that, I am here in this with you, shoulder to shoulder with you. I come from a family that worked hard, that wasn't connected, that wasn't on the inside, but a family of people who worked hard to build an amazing Michigan life. And that I want to make sure that you can afford to stay in Michigan and succeed and build that life for your family as well.
In light of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, any response to that? It's still top of mind for a lot of Americans and Michiganders. Wherever you are on the political spectrum, it's just so tragic when you think about a person out there espousing their beliefs, gets killed for them potentially, if this really is politically motivated like it looks. Any response to Charlie Kirk's death?
A man got murdered in broad daylight in the middle of a crowd of people. It's terrible. And there's no other way to describe that. It is terrible. And again, we cannot accept, tolerate, normalize, or allow to fester and escalate this kind of political violence. And so there must be no place for this.